After a 30-day public notice period to receive development concepts on June 16th, City Council selected the development group, the Denuzio Group and Gotham Property Acquisitions. And at this point in time, as part of the negotiations, are seeking that CRA use city TIF dollars to help reimburse certain impact fees. This is supported by the Downtown Redevelopment Plan. Policy 11 says that the trustees can consider reimbursement of impact fees. It specifically meets 3 objectives in the plan: increasing residential use, activating the ground floor of Osceola, and then also relocating City Hall. So the specific request is for $1.5 million to be moved into an escrow account, and then the reimbursement would be contingent on, of course, a successful referendum in November, sale and purchase agreement, and a development agreement adopted by City Council. Happy to answer any questions.
I asked staff, because I was recalling some of the big projects that had received funds in the past, so I asked for the Marriott Residence Inn, which was certainly puts things in perspective.
And the Nolan received funds as well for the cleanup of the site.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Thanks. I had a question about, so the 1.4 million goes into an escrow account, and then they don't receive it until they actually accrue those expenses? I mean, it sits there for a number of years? I mean, because these are what, impact fees and permit fees or things like that?
So not permit fees.
Not permit.
We've been clear on that. So I would defer to the city attorney or the finance director. I mean, escrow
is for the money to be released to the city when those impact fees become due. That will happen approximately 2 years from now, give or take, and that will be at the time of issuance of a building permit. That will all happen prior to them closing on the real estate. I do believe that this way that it's read right now in the item is probably advantageous to both us and the developers. I think from the developer standpoint, the advantage to doing it this way, meaning it gets released directly to the city, is that it gets released at an earlier point in time. So in other words, they don't have to necessarily wait until they close on the real estate to get that money paid. The alternative, which Ms. Cole and I have been discussing, is for the developers to pay all those fees when they become due, which again will be 2 years from now, give or take, and then we would reimburse them out of the escrow account at the time of closing. I wouldn't say I'm married to one idea or the other, but I think that, as I said, the advantage for the developers is that if we have the CRA release those monies when they become due, then the developers don't have to spend out of pocket in order to actually incur those fees. From our perspective, the advantage in doing it that way is on an accounting level. The CRA is a limited purpose entity, can only spend money for certain types of things. I think it's just cleaner from a transparency level if we have the CRA directly release those monies to the city rather than having the developer spend those monies and then us reimbursing them. We can do that if there was a major issue, but I would just prefer, given the choice, that we have the CRA release the monies directly to the city as opposed to the CRA reimbursing the developers if we're given the choice in order to do that. So just my preference, but I hope that answers the questions.
It does, but I need a little clarity. I didn't really understand the, it'll be released at the time of issuance of a building permit prior to them closing on real estate. So they can get a building permit before a closing on real estate?
That is correct. Under the way it's currently, designed, that is correct.
And that's been all of our development.
Is it? That's the norm? Okay.
In the CRA at least.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Albrecht.
So I thought one of the asks from them was for not only impact fees, but for building fees as well, because the way I figure it on the amount was be about $500,000 in permit fees. Is there something, could you clarify, is there something in the charter that says that we cannot do that?
The CRA, because it's a statutorily limited entity, can only reimburse or pay for certain types of fees. It's not so much impact fees versus permit fees per se, it's rather where do all those fees ultimately end up. Our impact fees that we charge as a city are primarily in 2 categories. Number one is our water and sewer impact fees, which are designed to protect our potable water and sanitary sewer infrastructure. And number two, the multimodal impact fee, which is not limited to Clearwater, but in fact is a county-wide initiative, and that's designed for road and transportation. The reason the CRA is allowed to offset those impact fees is because they all fall into the category of public works, and the CRA has broad authority within the redevelopment area to pay for or help contribute to various public works, whether it's transportation, utilities, things like that. Permit fees used to be something that a CRA potentially could participate in. However, the CRA statute was amended in October of 2019, and as a result of those new statutory changes, we are a lot more restricted in terms of what the CRA can spend money on. There's really, in my opinion, no basis anymore for the CRA to actually spend money on things like permit fees, although admittedly, that was something that was commonly done. And in fact, the agenda item even notes that in 2018, it was actually part of the CRA's plan to do things like that. But I don't believe that's permissible under the revised statute. What is permissible, however, what I've been discussing with Ms. Cole as recently as this weekend, is that there are steep discounts available on the permit fees through the city, not the CRA, but through the city. There are steep discounts available if they choose to utilize private providers for their building review process, which they're allowed to do under Florida law. Then on the city side, there is at least a 50% discount. That's 50% discount on their permit fees. So at a minimum, they're going to be getting a pretty hefty discount on their permit fees, but I do not believe that the CRA would be appropriate to reimburse those fees.
Okay.
Other questions or comments?
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
You all did not ask, but just for the public who might ask later, this funding will come out of the new allocation that we receive in October 1st of property taxes. So this ask does not impact anything that has been in process, voted on, currently approved. So it's not taking away from anything that's already happening.
Do I have a motion to approve item 4.1?
Motion to approve item 4.1.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. And then 4.2 has been pulled.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else from the CRA, Mr. CRA Director?
The only thing I would say is that we have been interviewing candidates for the permanent position. We will finalize those interviews this week. I will interview a few of the finalists, and hopefully we'll be able to come up with a permanent recommendation.
Are we going to get to meet finalists, seeing as they work
Of
for
course.
us?
Of course.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
I have some questions, just kind of some follow-up or ones about updates on what's going on. I had asked about what are the plans or what are we thinking about to activate more economic energy around the Pinellas Trail? And, there was a response that you're working on things. Can we learn what that's all about and an update on the Mercado area and things like that?
Absolutely. So both of those items we've been working on. Actually, the Mercado or Beast Gateway project as recently as late last week. Pinellas Trail. So I inquired with the county. I was not aware that the county actually is responsible for the maintenance of the trail. And so I inquired with the county about the city going into partnership with the county. I don't think any of us feel as though that the current look and feel of particularly the downtown portion of the trail is up to the standard in which is acceptable for the city. And so in working with Assistant Administrator Silverboard and others at the county level, we're looking to see what we can do to significantly upgrade the conditions of the trail. In terms of the economic impact of the trail, I think that those are the steps that we have to take before there's any other type of investment, potential investment along the trail route there. And so, do you have any follow-up questions?
I do. So just understanding so I bike on that trail pretty frequently. So if we're talking about the maintenance, I mean, what is the county responsible for? Is it just the asphalt and 4 feet on either side of the asphalt? I mean, so it seems like they're doing a decent job where I ride, but I don't know where the city's line and responsibility comes in from theirs.
It's the asphalt. I mean, I think what's more important is what's surrounding the trail.
Exactly.
And we don't have anything right now that activates around the trail.
Right, and that's what I mean. That's my question
Area
is.
by East Avenue between East and Myrtle, and Cleveland and Drew, that's the low-hanging fruit rather than sitting being dormant. Councilmember Albrecht?
Yeah, just a comment. I've always thought that it's a real health hazard to cross, 8 or 9 lanes of traffic on Chestnut and Court with our trail. So one of the things that I always imagined was that we would still have that crossing, but I'd like to see more people, when the park is completed, to go down Turner Street on the trail that goes down to the bridge, go down to the bottom through the park, and then connect over to Drew Street. You wouldn't be going across any lanes of heavy traffic. And I guess we'll just have to wait to see when the park opens, how many people will use that route. I mean, I certainly would. It's just a better little piece to go around by the bay and then come back up. Because I don't think we're ever put some kind of crossing over Chestnut and Court Street. So I know that there are funds available I talked to Whip Blanton about it a few years ago. So I hope that we're applying for funds that can help maybe pay some upgrades for that trail going through the park.
I agree. I mean, that's how I travel. I go down by the park, by Coachman Park, and then up to Drew to avoid all that other. But yeah, I was talking more about the economic, like the whole Dunedin, little shops along the trail that speak to people who, bike along the trail.
I think the only way we change that is we decide we're going to target funds and give a greater incentive for those properties. Because right now they're not in public hands.
And if we could, if there's a possibility of grants that could be targeted towards Clearwater residents who we'd want to, allow to come in there and set up little shops or have some kind of an indoor, I think of like a flea market thing, but not like that, but just little different vendors indoors that people could get out of the heat and elements and go in. I mean, there's lots of possibilities.
Well, the placemaking grant will work for that purpose now. So, I mean, that program's up and active. So any Clearwater resident, neighbor, anyone really can apply for the placemaking grant. The Downtown Development Board also allocated money to do design for the Pinellas Trail because it's all within the DDB district as well. So I know the CRA staff was working on a scope of work for that. So at least getting the design started.
So the DDB allocated money to do design for the Pinellas Trail? What does that mean, to do design?
So like you were describing not only what's in the right-of-way, but adjacent to it, what improvements could we make within the right-of-way, and then whether that be, painting or landscaping, lighting, whatever that might be.
Benches or things like that?
And then engaging the adjacent property owners on what could they do. I mean, as you guys know, because you've been down it a lot, it's vacant lots and it's parking garages and sides of buildings. So that's why,
Yes, so last week I met with the East Gateway Neighborhood Leadership, Neighborhood Organization Leadership. There seems to be a tremendous amount of confusion as to what may have transpired 10 years ago, long before I got here and others, that there had been a planning effort 10 years ago. And that, in the neighborhood at that time, seemed to have accepted what was proposed. It was more of a pocket park, more of your traditional neighborhood park. Fast forward to the last 3 years with a different design, and that's where I think the confusion of folks who have lived in that neighborhood for quite a number of years versus some of the newer residents, I think has been difficult for all of us in the city to be able to figure out the exact direction that the neighborhood actually wants to go. You know, we had one individual come and speak before the council and convince the council that that we should just leave everything green, and so that's why we're trying to expedite that process.
That's also assuming there's a single vision from the neighborhood.
There's never a single vision.
Well, I attended the HOA meeting last week. Ms. Anderson was there, and that was actually a topic of discussion, and it was clearly conveyed that some of the concerns regarding pavement versus green was not a consensus. Many of the members there said that that concern did not accurately reflect everyone's concern. So I think it was one or two people that had strong feelings, and then it was conveyed as the whole group had those concerns, but that's not accurate. There are many different opinions.
Yes, that is certainly what I've heard any number of occasions. But putting down concrete and then having to tear that up because you may want to adjust more of the pocket park type of look and feel doesn't really make any fiscal sense, so hence the reason why kind of in a holding pattern, but really trying to push forward quickly to figure out exactly what the best.
You got a great park a block away, one of our best in Clearwater, so, I don't know. I like the Mercado, what do they call it now, not the Mercado.
Festival Core.
The Festival Core, that was, to me, made more sense to have a place where people can gather and have little mini markets and maybe little concerts or whatever, but I guess we'll try to figure out what the neighborhood wants and go from there.
Well, why don't we go back and have, a public meeting with the neighborhood? I think also you have to decide what is the neighborhood. Okay, so does that mean Skycrest, enters into the conversation? Is it just the East Gateway? Is it Country Club Edition? I mean, there's neighborhoods that are surrounding that area. And, when we say the neighborhood, what does that mean?
Exactly.
I mean, who are the real stakeholders? Ultimately, we can put different iterations out, get opinions, and then the city's going to have to make a decision.
Yes. So we do have a meeting where we're actually close to scheduling the meeting for August, for that neighborhood meeting that you mentioned.
And where is that going to be held?
I'm not sure the exact location as of yet, unless,
Hacienda's a decent place to have it, so.
Well, I think the
Glad we
important,
have a meeting at the Mines Bank. Well,
I think the important thing is to really publicly notice it a lot, whether it's even flyers indoors or some, an electric signage, the digital neighborhood signage, to really get a wide swath of people so that there isn't just two on this side, two on that side, and whoever.
Worthy to just say that the community or at least those that attended those meetings regularly, were aware of the original concept. And in my experience, there were no concerns expressed at that time until just last month or the month before.
I think it would be good to have a map of the surrounding area so that people can put where they live. So, anything else? Okay. We're going to adjourn the CRA. We will start pension trustees in 37 minutes.
For you. Good. Thank you. That's okay. That's okay. That's all